Mr. Ragland?
Here.
And Vice President Reyes?
Here.
You have a quorum, Madam President.
Thank you. Before we adopt the agenda, I'm going to turn it over to Vice President Reyes for some brief remarks.
Thank you, President Adair. I just wanted to recognize and ask for a resolution for my mother-in-law and retired Columbus City School teacher, Mrs. Daisy Pearl Coates. She was born in April 30th, 1936 in Harleysville, South Carolina. She has worked in several different positions. She attended and graduated with honors from the Kennedy High School. She attended Allen University in Columbia, South Carolina, got a master's in comprehensive sciences in Fisk University in Nashville, Tennessee. She also acquired a certification in library science from Ohio Dominican University in Columbus, Ohio. And then she went on to resume studies in Washington, D.C., where she studied at American University Research Labs and assisted in creating the first hair relaxing system for Black women. So the Columbus City Schools, whereas this resolution is in honor of the life and service of Miss Daisy Pearl Coates, who passed away on August 28, 2021. And whereas Ms. Coates was a dedicated member of the Columbus City Schools community, she began her career as a science teacher at Franklin Junior High School and retired as a librarian from Berry Middle School. And whereas Mrs. Coates was an incredible leader in the community as well as a transformative mentor for so many young people, and whereas Ms. Coates worked tirelessly to ensure the Columbus City School students were supported and successful during and after their educational career. And whereas in addition to her service in the community, she was a proud member of the Zeta Phi Beta sorority and a dedicated member of the St. Paul AME Church. And whereas through her dedication to her community and passion for service, she has made an everlasting impact on the Columbus community that will transcend generations. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Columbus City Schools hereby honors, recognizes, and celebrates the life of Miss Daisy Pearl Coates and extends our sincere condolences to her family and friends on the occasion of her passing, Saturday, August 28th, 2021.
Second.
Thank you. It's actually not something we need to vote on. This is going to be a new process to recognize those individuals who have served the district in long-term capacity or made substantial impact. The resolution is actually from the school district as a whole, not the board. And it will be something that we will do as a regular course of business to honor the lives of those who have served us. And we will be issuing those to families as we learn, so the community can let us know as well. Ramona and John, my condolences to you and your family. She was an amazing woman, and I know that she left a huge impact on our district and all the children that she served. So I know that you will also deliver that to the family. I hope that this new kind of process that we're going to use will continue to honor those that have served us. So thank you for bringing this to our attention and helping us kind of create this way to honor individuals.
Thank you.
Okay, so we are going to now adopt the agenda. On tonight's agenda, we have no public comment on agenda items. We have a report from the superintendent. No reports this evening expected from our internal auditor or treasurer. We have no items on board matters. We have a consent agenda as usual. And we have no public comment on non-agenda items and no executive session. And then we will adjourn. So we have a very important meeting tonight.
Second.
We have a very important meeting tonight. So we have a motion by Brown, second by Cole. Opposite. Motion by Cole, second by Brown. Go ahead and call the roll.
Okay.
I know, they did it before I could say it, so.
Oh, I see what you want to
Yeah.
do. All right, thank you. President Adair?
Yes.
Ms. Beckerly?
Yes.
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. Cole?
Yes.
Mr. Ragland?
Yes.
Vice President Reyes?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Thank you. All right, we're going to go ahead and move into item number 4, the executive report from the superintendent. Madam Superintendent.
Yeah, thank you, President Adair. Tonight, I would like to provide an important update to the board and our community regarding our transportation services. But before I go into that, I want to make just a quick point of clarification. When the board meeting started, the mics were on, and so I just received a text message that someone thought that I stated that students will be penalized if they did not wear their mask appropriately. So I just wanted to provide some context for those who heard that kids will not be penalized. Board Member Brown was asking about the many emails that the board has received about students not wearing their mask appropriately. And he asked if we could ensure that teachers are spending a few minutes, just making sure kids know how to place the mask on their face. And we talked about maybe some bulletin boards to go up. I talked to our chief academic person and made sure that she would inform buildings that in any way that we can to ensure that students are wearing their mask appropriately, because we do not want students penalized for not having on their mask appropriately. So that was what I stated. So if someone heard that differently, I just wanted to clarify that. We know that wearing masks is important. We want our students to wear them responsibly. And if we have to use a few minutes more during our day just to make sure that students have them on appropriately, we would do so. So I just want to clarify that. So also, as I stated, I want to provide an important update to the board and community regarding our transportation services. Our bus drivers and transportation team are the first and last people many of our students get to see during their school day. In Columbus City Schools, bus drivers must complete rigorous training and are critical to ensuring timely and safe pickup and drop-off of our students while maintaining a safe environment for everyone inside the bus. It's a duty that our team takes seriously. Since the start of the new school year, we have received several concerns from transportation-eligible families regarding late buses not picking students up at all, or parents not being able to get through customer service line to speak with a representative. We know that this has been frustrating for our families who are entrusting us with the safety of their students amidst a pandemic. The transportation team has been and will continue to work diligently to correct these issues, which can stem from many reasons, the most notable of which is a nationwide shortage of bus drivers. School districts, both large and small across the country, are dealing with the same issue as we are here in Columbus. Even CODA is experiencing a driver shortage that has resulted in reduced services. Yeah. The driver shortage is an unfortunate product of the pandemic, but we are tackling it head on to mitigate its impact on our students and their families. We expect many of these issues to get better, but we do not expect a return to the level of service that was possible before the pandemic. Our drivers are given 100% to ensure students arrive safely at school in the morning and back home in the afternoon. And the transportation team will continue to improve our services to the extent possible. Here are the strategies that our transportation team is using to address this issue locally. Communication. Our first and most immediate strategy is proactive communications. Our transportation team is committed to improving communications with families. We know that our call center has been overwhelmed with the volume of calls since the start of the school year. During the first week of school, we averaged 3,200 calls per day to our customer service line. As a result, we are providing additional support to the call center at our school buildings to handle the volume of calls and provide timely updates to answer any bus-related questions. Schools will have additional funds to ensure their phone line is staffed after school hours to assist families. We have also increased communications from the transportation department to our schools to let them know if buses will be late, which will allow schools to communicate more proactively and effectively with families. This includes the rollout of a GPS-enabled arrival board that will allow school staff to track their buses in real time, giving them better access to information that can help with proactive messages to families. This arrival board is in 20 schools currently and will be implemented in more schools to come in the days ahead. A bus tracking app for parents is also in our near-term plans. This app, which works in conjunction with the arrival board, will allow parents to log in and see where their child's bus is located in real time. In addition to these short-term supports, we are hiring 4 additional call center representatives and 2 additional dispatchers to address the large volume of calls the center receives each day. Our next strategy to address the driver shortage has been to create more efficient bus routes. Before the pandemic, in March of 2020, we employed 765 bus drivers who handled 704 routes daily. Knowing we could not feasibly hire that many drivers this year, our transportation team worked to create more efficient routes to reduce the number of drivers needed each day. This has fortunately allowed us to provide transportation for all eligible students attending CCS, charter, and non-public schools. However, as a result of this strategy, some of our routes have longer ride times for students to and from school. Delays on our Tier 1 routes, or those typically transporting middle and high school students, have a domino effect on our Tier 2 routes for elementary students. This has been the biggest factor in routes being delayed during the first week of school. One thing that we have seen since the start of the school year is that our ridership has not decreased. Students are still using our yellow bus service to get to and from school, which we appreciate and encourage. We continue to route nearly 40,000 students each day. To alleviate this large number of riders, we ask transportation-eligible families this summer to voluntarily opt out of yellow bus transportation to free up seats. This resulted in families agreeing to provide their own transportation for more than 700 students. We have also continued the suspension of Form 1 requests for alternative pickup and drop-off locations for the 2021-22 school year. This was a strategy that we had in place last year as well. The third strategy to improve our transportation services is driver recruitment. In addition to streamlining our bus routes, we know we need to increase our number of drivers. We currently have 606 active drivers on staff. However, due to leave of absence and daily call-off rates between 8 and 13%, We typically have fewer drivers available on a given school day. To address this issue, we have recruited new drivers through an aggressive marketing campaign in order to have applications in the training pipeline. The process to become a full-time school bus driver is not an easy one. It requires obtaining a commercial driver's license, or CDL, before training on school buses. To make the process easier for applicants, we are offering CDL training classes 2 nights a week. Once an applicant passes the test to obtain a CDL permit, they must then train to drive a school bus, the culmination of which is a road test. Here's where we currently stand with bus driver staffing. We have 162 candidates in the process of becoming a trainee. 20 of these candidates have obtained their CDL permit, and we have an additional 22 drivers who are in the training process currently with their road tests scheduled for October. To aid in our recruitment and make the training process more attractive to potential applicants, the board also approved a wage increase this summer for bus driver trainees from $11 an hour to now $18 an hour. As I conclude this report, I would like to reiterate that the district is not taking these transportation and customer service concerns lightly. We understand why families would express their concern and demand to see improvement in our service. We appreciate their patience and understanding as we work to solve these issues. Like much of what we have experienced during the pandemic, we are all adjusting to our new normal. We will continue to work every day on providing the best possible transportation services to our students and our families. And we will continue to communicate expectations and updates accordingly. This concludes my report, Board President Adair.
Okay, there's questions from the board. We'll start with Board Member Cole and then Beckerly.
Thank you so much for the report. Thank you for providing some measure of clarity. The first I have a question about is our customer service. This is not an opportunity to grandstand or put people on the spot, but our community deserves better. And I've been a parent who's experienced the challenges of our customer service. I think that this is a make sense area of investment. What remedial steps are you taking to address our customer service issue? I didn't hear you mention that as a part of this transportation plan. Maybe I missed it, I don't know.
Yeah, so we are increasing the number of employees that will be at our call center, because currently I believe we have 11 people. And so we need more people. So we have allocations, and we're interviewing for people to fill those spots. In addition, we are sending people from our HR team who are assisting at the call center now. And we also are offering additional hours to building level secretaries or their instructional assistants to answer the phones at the school buildings for families. And as I stated, with no excuse, we understand that families want to know where their students are, and we have not done a good job of providing that customer service. We recognize it, I own it, and we will do better, and they're going to see something different. We've already put some strategies in place now, but parents need to know where their students are. They need to know when the buses are going to be late, and we put those systems in place now to ensure that when families call the school or when they call transportation, someone will answer the phone to assist them.
Thank you. In addition to that, I remember there was a time, this is probably, I want to say 2015-ish, 2016-ish, when we had software that could basically tell the temperature of a kid's butt on a seat. I mean, pardon my Deutsch, but I mean, it was really kind of that definitive. Is this the technology that you're talking about now? I think it was Zonar, I think is what it was called.
Right. So what we're investing in now, and two things. One is a software where the driver can let the bus compound know where they are, right? And then then the call center will give information to the buildings. Another something else we're investigating is a tracker system, right? And so we want to be able to leverage technology in all ways so that parents could provide that it know where their child is, but that's part of it. So we're looking at different platforms to investigate in a tracker, and this tracker will be almost a GPS on your student. Your student is on the bus, you know exactly where their student is and approximately what time that their arrival. So we're looking at, again, you know, we're transporting almost about 40,000 students, and we want to make sure that we're leveraging technology so that families can know where their students are in real time. And that has been something that we've not done well.
I personally look forward to seeing that and having the opportunity to actually see how it works.
Yes.
So at any point in time, I mean, Michael is asking for Michael, but at any point in time, I'd love to be able to have the opportunity to see how this new system works. Because I do know at one time, we also were having children scan on the bus to be able to track them as well. But my last question is regarding alignment of our systems. So the beautiful thing is that we're going to integrate this technology. Is it something that is going to facilitate us on a building for building level to acknowledge attendance of that student? Maybe in a way that they don't, that eliminates a teacher's ability to have to track that student when they get in class, because the secretary or whoever else actually got notice that that child is on the bus and en route, ETA, expected time is, and they can transition right into school with no punitive action for a pass, a late pass, anything like that.
Yeah.
So this is my own kind of classroom experience, but at the same time, I'd love to know how we're going to integrate those systems.
That would be a great opportunity for us. It's almost like a one card system, right? You have your card, you scan in on the bus, you scan for your books, your attendance, as you stated. So we're looking at multiple mediums to provide that integration. We are also looking at a system that we invested in years ago, Munis, and making sure that that Munis system could do some integration for transportation, HR, food service, finance. So there's an opportunity, and we're investigating that. You know, here's an opportunity for us to utilize, to leverage technology to make the student experience better from door to door. And that is, you get on the bus, you scan in, you go in the building, you scan in, just like we do on our IDs when we're getting into buildings. So our team is investigating that. And hopefully we'll be able to come back and report out what that looks like. We utilize pilots a lot in the district. And so we will possibly be piloting something like that. And we do have Rob Weimer here if we need some specific transportation, if he to speak to that as well. But we are looking at every possible way to integrate technology, to leverage technology rather, and to integrate platforms so our students have a better experience.
Madam President, I just have two final points, and I'll
Okay.
be very brief. To that effect, I think it's super important that we look at budgeting this out and prioritizing this in our behavioral budget. My concern with that is that the lifespan of ESSA dollars, the lifespan of the fair ed education, state funding, is very, very limited, right? So I want to make sure that we're seeing a bit beyond our nose, and in fact, down the road, we're using binoculars here to anticipate a growing need for this staff to be here in place and for this technology to exist beyond, you know, the term life of these federal and other dollars. The last piece is, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to hand this question to Misty so that there can be follow-up from the administration.
Okay.
But again, I just want to close with, I think it's really important for us to be advocating in the State House for a multi-level opportunity for students to attend school. COVID has exposed this. I know the numbers are going up and will continue to increase. We may end up going back to the way things were last year. Understanding that we should have multiple platforms ready and optional for students, and I know that we're handcuffed by the state to an extent, but I love us to be a part of the advocacy initiative to allow blended, virtual, and all-day in-class opportunities for our kids. Thank you.
Right, thank you. And we do have the blended option and all day, but I agree. And then also I wanted to add to, let's not forget, there is a professional development training piece that's involved. Anytime we're moving from platforms, and we want to make sure that our students are trained, our parents are trained, and our staff is trained on these different initiatives. But thank you, Board Member Cole.
Board Member Beckerly?
Maybe I'll start where Board Member Cole left off with the ESSER money. And he's worried about us spending it too fast, and I'm thinking we should be spending more of it. And I saw it in Baltimore, you know, because some of this is our numbers, it's so tight with the routes and getting all the kids on time. I saw a headline that said Baltimore was offering like gas money to parents. You know, and that even if that peeled off another 50 kids or 100 kids, that, you know, I'm not saying we should offer hundreds of dollars, but if gas money is the only thing in this crunch moment, right? Eventually this is all going to sort itself out, but if in that, you know, and if there's some way we could do that, I'd like to see us consider it.
Yeah, thank you. So we spoke, our team spoke about incentivizing. You know, we have 700 families who've already made that decision.
Oh, they're going to feel bad then.
Well, we talked about that if we go with an incentive, we would give those 700 families.
Some of it too.
Yeah, they were there, you know, right.
I mean,
So,
and it may just.
right, but just know that we always make sure, a district our size, that when we make a decision to use ESSER dollars, that we are getting approval. We don't want to come back and anyone say that we use money inappropriately. So the time that we spend may not be, seem like it's timely enough, but there's an approval process.
Oh, so you're looking into this and you're just figuring out if you can or not.
Exactly.
Got
Can
it.
we do
Okay,
it? Is
that's
it
all I need to
legal?
know. Yeah.
You know, we
And how would we
always,
do it?
yes.
Okay, good.
Thank you.
I just wanted to make sure it was being
Yeah,
considered.
I think, but to your point, I think people thought, well, school districts are getting this money, they can spend it as quickly, but there is a process that.
Oh, sure, no.
That we are choosing to do well, and that is documenting, getting approvals
Because we're going to get
before.
audited. I didn't know if we were considering it or not.
Oh, yes,
Okay,
yes.
Then the next thing that I would love to see is, I know that I've said this before, but a chart that says where we are, where we need to be comfortable in terms of numbers of drivers, what the absence rate has to change and all of those things. Because it still seems vague to me about when we're going to breathe easier. What's the target? And I kind of, you know, you get a sense of it, but we're still hovering. So I really would like to see that sort of, and tracking our progress. Like even if you just gave us a chart once a week that said, we got 10 more drivers this week, you know, we got 13 more drivers next week, you know, and then our goal is 715, and then we can all say, okay, we have enough drivers, you know, or whatever it is. And I just feel like, and that, if we can publish that to the public as well, they'll see our progress and they'll feel like, okay, we're chipping away at it.
Okay.
And I just feel like there's a really good, there's a benefit to communicating that way. And then, which brings me to, and I'm thrilled to hear that in this like gap, while we're sorting through some other strategies, you're incentivizing HR and other staff people, because I think that's exactly, we're in an all hands on deck sort of situation. And that recognizes that.
Yeah.
And I think anything we can say along those lines in terms of a public announcement, like, you know, we're trying, you know, we got 3,200 complaints. This is what we've done this week. We incentivized this people, this people, this people. And to that end, some metric or some rationale to where 3,200, whatever the rates are, maybe that's not the right number, that we often say we're hiring more people or we're doing, staffing. Can we connect the need to the number of staff? Like, so, I think you said you hired 2 more dispatchers and 2 more customer service people or something. Mm-hmm. Do we have any sense that those 4 people can close the gap on this need? And I'd like to see data like, so, we had this many that couldn't handle this and the wait was this long. And then even if it's not enough, if we could show that it's getting down.
Yeah.
So now the next week we had 2,500 calls, but the wait was only 45 minutes and not an hour and a half. I mean, still unacceptable.
Yeah.
So now we realize we have to we have to hire another 2 people or incentivize some more instructional aides to do some of this work, or we have to, so we get, not just for the board, but for the community, that we kind of have a handle on this. We might not solve it right away.
Right, with some data from our call
The
center.
data
of how
that
we're doing.
shows, and I think that that's really, we owe that to the community. And, I think that that's, and then the last thing along those lines is this Form 1 thing. I think our messaging has at this point been it's off. We're not going to let kids get dropped off at other places and picked up there. We're not going to let them switch. And I think it makes perfect sense that we have to get things stabilized before we start messing with that. But if there could be any messaging, just to hang with us. As soon as we're in a position to start considering that, we will. Because there's a significant number of kids whose attendance is probably going to be affected by that. And I think that, so there's a practical reason that we have to do it. I also think it's just hard for parents to hear, I'm sorry, you're not doing it. There's that customer service part. And we got, just to acknowledge, I think the board certainly received a couple of nice emails saying that the communication's improved, the tone, the quality, and I just wanted to thank everyone involved in that, transportation, whoever else, because that matters a ton.
Yeah. Thank you. And we are, we're working to improve. Some of the things that are realities is that there's a shortage. So as we, work to recruit, we are seeing that people make a different decision and say that they don't want to continue to work as a transportation. So, you will see on your board legislation tonight that we have 18 resignations. So as we, we get, so,
You're still filling in to get to the 600
So we're still filling
number.
in, trying to get to where we were pre-pandemic. And so we recognize and we say to families, we know that there's a need for students to get other places. We recognize it. Right now, we cannot do it.
No, I understand.
And hopefully we'll get back to that. But right now, it's not possible. But we still want people to be a part of the team. That active recruitment and marketing and for bus drivers, not here but nationally. And that's what we're going to keep advocating and getting the training and having the conversations with our transportation team to say, hey, what else is it that you need? What can we do to make sure that this experience is a comfortable one for you as a driver? So we want to make sure, too, that we are giving them feedback. And I would say to our union leader, Lois Carson, we're sending a survey out, just to get some feedback from the team members to see exactly what is it that we can do to ensure that they stay on with us as team members during these critical times.
Okay, one more thing, and then I will shut up. It did occur to me, and here I am spending more ESSER money, Michael.
I'm not worried about the speed of it. I'm just worrying about us planning beyond it.
Beyond it, right? No, I know. And
Yes.
a lot of my ideas at this point are short-term, but do we do something like, here's a gift card if you come in every day? I don't know. There's downside to that, too.
Right.
The other thought I was thinking, because I was thinking truly, and Lois, I want you to hear this, gratitude toward these bus drivers. Like, maybe we do something silly like on Fridays, not silly, but like, meaningful but not huge. Like, we have cake waiting at the compound on Friday and we say thank you. And I would, I'd be happy to be a board member that shows up and says, I appreciate you showing up and driving these kids. I know, I've been on plenty of buses. I know darn well that it's not,
Right.
it's not always a treat,
Right.
And,
Right. And us taking the time,
Yes.
Board Member Beckerly, to make sure that we do that. And so we acknowledge that we need to do better.
And
get in there.
count me in.
Yeah,
I'd
thank
be
you.
happy to do that. I actually, twice this week, I was in my car and during it, and I wanted to stop it at stop and just like shout up to the bus driver, we appreciate you. And then I thought, no, that will slow him down. I can't do that. So I didn't, but I thought of it, All right, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay,
So I just want to say again, thank you to Lois Carson. I mean, she has, she here?
Yeah, she's over there.
She's down there, yeah.
I'm sorry, Lois, I didn't see you. But thank you, Lois. But again, we talked about doing a survey, getting feedback. I think the survey responses are due tomorrow, Thursday. And then once we're doing a joint survey, and once
like
those
that.
results come back from the survey, then we're going to put some additional things in place. So, but again, thank you for reaching out, and we've been talking to see how can we make sure that our drivers feel valued. I mean, when you're driving during these times, right? And it's important, and that, so I appreciate you, making sure that we keep them in the forefront, top of mind, and making sure we're acknowledging and thanking them at all times. So thank you so much, Lois.
Carol.
Stop. All right, I'll send you an email with my thought.
We're going to go to Board Member Ragland, Brown, and then Pierce.
Thank you, Madam President. I want to start with that
I don't wanna be as long as
conversation in mind. I have several neighbors and people that I love that are bus drivers. And one of the things, it's incumbent upon the community to have a little bit of understanding with what is happening with us beginning school in this setting, a bit of patience and a bit of kindness in dealing with our drivers is also warranted as well. I understand that your personal situation with your child is a trying one and it's very frustrating for you. But some of our drivers have multiple issues that are occurring with multiple students. I've heard some horror stories over the last 2 weeks around some things that have been said and done to some of our drivers that may have caused them to take a couple of these mental health days that we see that they feel like they need. I mean, if you think about a situation where a driver stops and entertains a conversation with a parent who is very upset and understandably upset about the situation with their child, but then the things that are being said to the driver who may or may not have a direct impact on why that bus is late are hurtful. And, I would hope that our parents would have a little bit of empathy with our drivers as they are going through all of this trial as we kind of work these types of issues out. And then also understand that while they are there entertaining you in that conversation that you are having with them, that is making them late for the next stop that they have to go to as well. And we all understand that it's very frustrating, and we are trying our best to work out a lot of our kinks, but they are people too. And some of the things that I have heard that are being said and done to our drivers are not the best representation of who we are as people. They're working very, very hard, and I would hope that we would be understanding that this is not what they want when they are dropping your child off late or picking your child off late. They endeavor to be on time and do all of those things. And so let's have a little bit more empathy towards them in that situation. My question is around, I've got two. My first question is around the number of families that utilize Form 1. And maybe you don't have this answer tonight, but please, if you could get that to me. I'd like to know the percentage of the 40,000 students that are using transportation, are using that Form 1 to have a special drop-off place or pickup place for their students. That would be helpful, and see if there could be some opportunities for us to engage in with some of our community partners that might can help them in those situations. And then my next question may not necessarily be for you, Dr. Dixon, but may be for Treasurer Bohoric. Typically, if students are declared impractical for transportation, there is an option for families to have a payment in lieu of transportation. This is prior to ESSER even being an issue for us. And I'm wondering where those monies would come from. If I'm a parent and I say, well, it's impractical for my child to be transported, I'll take the payment in lieu of instead. Does that come from general fund or does that come from the state? So I think that question is for Mr. Bohoric, and then I'm finished.
Sure. The funds for the parental payment in lieu of transportation come out of the general fund. And I believe, and if, I don't know if anybody from transportation is online here, but I believe the declaration is more our declaration that they're impractical to transport than the parent saying it's impractical to transport. So I think it's us declaring it impractical to transport, hence we make the payment in lieu of transporting them. But it comes out of the general fund.
Yes, sir. Okay. Yes, that concludes my questions, Madam President. Thank you for the presentation, Dr. Dixon.
Thank you. We have Board Member Brown next.
Thank you. Just a few things. First, I want to commend you, Dr. Dixon, as our leader in all of this, as the person who is responsible to all of us for everything that we're talking about. It's a big job. I know you're hearing a bunch of ideas here, and I have confidence that you'll sort through those with your team and, put to use those that make sense, and don't hesitate to reject those that just don't make sense. But I am very supportive of the plans that you've described about transportation, and I agree that we need to pay better attention to our relations with drivers and other staff, and to praising them for the good, hard work that they do. Second, I just want to let you know I appreciate the clarification that you made. I was not aware that somebody would actually respond that quickly, but I am aware, having 44 years now of public service, that there's always a hot mic. And I think I learned way back long ago that you can never assume that a mic is not on. See, it says, don't say anything anywhere that you're not comfortable with. And that particular issue, the mask one, was one that you characterized our conversation accurately, and I thank you. It was a matter that I'd been hearing from some parents about and wanted to bring it to you, and seeing what the city has now done, making masks mandatory in all public spaces. I think that it does make sense, as you describe, to help instruct our students and our staff about what are proper masks, what's the best way to wear them, how can they be worn, not to wear it under your nose. that defeats the purpose. And, and the gators don't work, period. But you go out in the community and you'll see all these different things out there by people, and it's sad. But we can do better, and it won't take much time to, instruct. We've got partners to help us do that. Our own staff, plus the city health department, plus nationwide children's hospital. And I think it's very important these days. The numbers continue to go up. I mean, that's just amazing. So again, we can do better. With respect to vaccinations, I know we're thinking and waiting for more information, and we'll get there. And then finally, I really appreciated the transportation presentation. And that was the main thing that you were talking about. And it caused me to wonder, how are we doing with recruiting our own students? Do we have something where, school bus drivers, I believe, need to be at least 21 these days and have their CDL and go through the other school bus training, and that's great. But are we working with any of our students who might have an interest, whether it's driving a school bus or working on the grounds or in the buildings? We are clearly one of the largest employers in this community. And I think we can probably do better. I see that, we've got 162 and 20 and 22 driver candidates who are in the process, in the pipeline to become drivers. What percentage, and maybe you can report back at some point, what percentage of those are Columbus City School graduates? Especially those recently graduating from here. The employment market is tough, and we can help with that. Obviously, teaching credentials take longer, but we can also plant some seeds.
Yeah. I think it's always a great opportunity for us to introduce our kids to the workforce and to let them get different experiences and perspective about all types of jobs. With this, maybe an opportunity for us to look for our adult education programs, right? So, we're doing well with that. We have a lot of our students that are going into the nursing field. So it is an opportunity that I believe that we can leverage to get people into our bus drive, our transportation department. I think is an excellent idea. And maybe Rob, he may have already thought about this. But I think that's an excellent opportunity for us to explore this further. First starting with our adult education program, because we're providing that training and we're incentivizing the training. We've incentivized, the rate. But also getting students when they're thinking about jobs that they can get when they graduate from high school. I think that age of 21 kind of prevents them from thinking about it immediately. They want some other gratifications at 18 when they graduate. But I think that that adult education is a pathway that we can explore deeper.
Thank you, and it's an area, too, where we could work jointly with OPSI.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Pierce.
Thank you for your presentation. My questions really focus on the process. So based upon the data, whether that data is the routing data that's coming in that's indicating if our buses are late, if our buses are on time, whether it is the call log of the calls that are going answered and the calls that are going unanswered, whether it's the number of students that are lost for a particular amount of time at the end of the day, which I've encountered multiple times last week. We have a wealth of data that's coming in and pointing to our limitations related to transportation. So based upon that data, my questions are, how can your team partner with existing drivers, in particular senior drivers, to understand our routing? That question is driven by the fact that I've talked to several senior drivers who have said there was a particular point in time when they could go into the room when it was time for bidding, or when the supervisors were getting the routes together and say, hey, have you thought about this? We normally do it this way because X, Y, or Z might happen. You know, maybe there's a fleet of Amazon trucks that come out at a certain time that our computer system doesn't know about, but that driver knows about it. So how can your team get back to that process in which drivers are at the table when we're developing those routes, and it's not just the computer system that's kicking it out for us?
Yeah. Thank you. That's a good question. I would have to have Rob explain to you the actual process that is utilized, and he is on.
Hello.
Hi there, Mr. Weinheimer. Can you explain to the board the process that we're utilizing, the routing process? And then the second piece is, how could we utilize our current drivers to improve the routing process if we're not currently using them now?
Yep. Thank you, everybody, President Adair and the rest of the board, and Dr. Dixon, thank you for this opportunity. So I want to rewind a little bit back to June and July. We were asked to route many kids on buses with less drivers. So our timeline this year was really consolidated, but I love the idea of getting driver input because they're the ones out there seeing it and doing it for us, and they're out there in the field. So they absolutely have the input. So we have to also remember that we had to keep social distancing in our bid room, and we also had to keep people spaced out and have time. So we had half-hour blocks to where we had 20 or so people come into the auditorium. Bidding was stretched across multiple days, more than usual, just to practice COVID protocols and keep everyone as safe as we could. So moving forward, I think we harness technology, a simple Google form, be approachable, and work through better lines of communication for our drivers to give us back that information. So it's a place I want to get to, and I love the idea, and we will implement it because I think it's needed. There's an element of it now where the driver can come into the compound and speak to the compound supervisor. Compound supervisor gives it to the router, but we can improve there. There's no doubt. So Board Member Pierce, I hope that answered your question on the process of how it works now and where we want to go.
I appreciate that. And just until we can increase the professional development that's offered to our staff members, if we could provide not just the Google form, but also a paper form to ensure that we can get that feedback. I think that's meeting people where they are.
Understood.
That would be great. My second question then kind of relates to the process for the end of the day. Some buildings have adjusted their bail schedule to give that extra 20 minutes to get our high schoolers situated, lined up. Some buildings have made the numbers bigger for the buses when they pulled up. They've designated particular staff members to be out there and seeing those buses as they're pulling up so they can get the students out from the high school and middle school quicker, so then they're on time to get to our elementary schools. And I know there must be a policy or procedure that kind of dictates a principal's ability to take that flexibility to do that. And so my question is, how can we give our principals additional flexibility so it's not just certain schools who have said, we're going to address this issue by making sure we start to mobilize and get students out of these classrooms, get their book bags prepared so they're getting on the buses quicker? How can we as a district empower our principals to be able to make those decisions?
Yeah, so I will have Dr. Chapman chime in, but before she does, I would like to say I believe our principals are empowered. We have offered many opportunities for their input. We hope that they understand it. They have the flexibility to do what's best for their building, because each building has their own culture. And we want them to have that flexibility and the support from their area superintendents, from Dr. Chapman as a chief. So we want to make sure that they have that flexibility, and if they need some assistance, they have a direct line to their area superintendent and to Dr. Chapman. But I would like Dr. Chapman, if she's on, if she can chime in to just speak to what that process looks like and how she ensures that we have a process across all regions, and that the principals have that support. I'm not sure if she's on.
Yes,
Hi.
yes,
Thank
Dr.
you.
Dixon, I'm here.
Thank you. Can you speak to that?
Can you hear me? I see
Yes.
6 versions of myself. so
Now
Okay,
you're
yes,
down to
go ahead.
one.
Go ahead and speak. Yeah.
You're down to one.
We can hear you. We can hear you. Okay.
Oh, okay. So we certainly work with our principals and support them with arrival, dismissal, and procedures to ensure efficiency at all of our sites. If the principals, certainly the principals have that flexibility to make those site-based decisions. If they need extra support, they can make those requests. They can revamp their practices for arrival and dismissal if they're not working. So they're flexible, they're fluid, they can make changes. And typically within the first 2 weeks of school, they are making those adjustments on a site-by-site building level decision to make those adjustments so they can be responsive to the needs. Certainly things change as staffing changes. One day you have 5 teachers out, you need to adjust and be responsive to how dismissal will look if you have teachers out, how dismissal will look when you have, if your enrollment increases or any of those changes. So absolutely, we do have the flexibility, and our principals have the discretion to make those changes, and they have the support, certainly from our team, to make those changes as well.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I appreciate that.
Thank you, Dr. Chapman.
The next 2 questions kind of relate to policies and protocols. So I think Board Member Breckerly, did you bring up Form A1 or Form
1?
Yes. So my questions around the particular form lie in regards to our students who are at a high school like a Fort Hays or a Cos, and they're trying to get back close to their home school so they can make football practice, volleyball practice, cheerleading practice. One, are those forms are we providing the transportation so our students can get back for their practices? And if we are not providing that transportation, are we proactively providing information to our families to let them know to get a plan in place, or the coaches to get a plan in place?
Gotcha. So I'll put Rob back on to answer that question. Rob?
Yep, thank you. So we have routed all of our Fort Hays and Downtown Career Center buses to have a stop at all the CCS high schools on the routes. So in the event they have to go back for an activity or a school sport function, they can hop on a bus that goes to their home residential high school so they can play sports or attend an activity.
I appreciate that. So then my follow-up question is, at a school like Cos, where you have a bus that's completely loaded with 2 students in each seat, how are we going to proactively message to the students and the families to keep their mask on properly so we're being as safe as possible and getting the kids to their practices?
Yeah. Well, I would say, one, for our high school students, they should be responsible enough to know that they should have their mask on at all times. And then our bus driver just reminding them when they get on the bus, you have your mask on, Talisa? Here's one, here's an extra one. And ensuring that when they are sitting on the bus, that they have their mask on. I think we have to go back to our students. We've been, talking about our portrait of a graduate and our students leading the way. Our students, they know, we have smart students, they know that they should have their mask on, and we just, maybe more signage. Maybe the building principal, as they exit the building, or whoever is outside, just ensuring and making those announcements that they're on the bus and with their mask on. Because I've heard from parents too that they're seeing students without their mask. And I've said many of times, to our students, make sure you have your mask on, wearing it properly. Where is it? And students would say, oh, my bad,
Right.
but to your point, it is important that we keep everyone safe. And if just wearing a mask is doing that, then we just have to make sure our students understand how important that this part of our dress code, because it's our dress code now, how important this is.
And then my last question kind of relates to the software itself. So it's my understanding that at some point in the transportation process, if a bus driver is running maybe 15 minutes late, they call in to alert their supervisor or say, hey, I'm behind. Given that we have so many buses that are late or behind, I'm sure it's triggering our software. Do those late messages start to go out once a bus is 15 minutes late, 30 minutes late? And what flexibility do we have in saying we want it triggered when a bus is 5 minutes late versus when a bus is 30 minutes late? And I'm not saying we take it to the 5 minutes,
Right.
but what's that window span at which point a bus becomes late?
Yeah, so put Rob back on again to,
Thank you for the question. So we have to rely on the driver to tell us that they're running 15 minutes late. It is a reactive approach. So we have to rely on the driver for that communication into dispatch, then dispatch then puts out a bus bulletin, and then it goes to all the families who have students registered on that bus. It would be a simple internal change to adjust that warning to either be 15 minutes, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 30 minutes. There's nothing in policy. It's just an internal process that we have. So really it comes down to dispatch needs to know when that bus is running late, and then we put out that message immediately, and we record all the buses who have those messages going out.
I know we can't give ideas or suggestions or thoughts related to how policies should be changed per AJ, but it would just be interesting to see if we did a tweak with that policy.
yeah.
Would that garner some different responses from our parents in
Yeah.
knowing that their children are late?
So that's something we can explore what that looks like, Rob, since we make that on internal is our decision. We'll see what that, explore and see what that looks like and follow up with some data behind what that change, the impact that change made.
That was all. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you, Dr. Pierce. I just want to say that, this is just another one of those adverse kind of issues that we have to deal with as a district, and we all have to do it holistically and keep that positive growth mindset. Issues in transportation are not actually new to the district, and that's for a variety of reasons, for decisions that have been made a long time ago. And, it's just really important that we continue to have the right mindset and approach these as a community. I don't think anyone is happy with the way transportation is going. Certainly not our parents, certainly not our bus drivers, certainly not the superintendent. And so we all know that we can make this better. And just as we did when we stepped up in COVID to try to figure out how are we going to do online learning, I know that we can do this as a collaborative group from everyone. So I want to say thank you, one, to the bus drivers, because I know that this is very challenging. I know that you're under a lot of pressure. As a parent, I know my bus has not been on time yet, and I know that's not my bus driver's fault. And so it's very challenging. I want to thank our secretaries and the people that are stepping up to help our customer service, because I know you're overwhelmed. I know you can't keep up, and I know it's because we didn't have enough people to support you, and we're fixing that. But I'm sorry that we had to fix it. I want to thank our dispatchers, and I want to thank our routers. I want to thank Rob, who's a new leader in this role and really stepping up and really, trying to think innovative in a system that wasn't innovative. I want to thank our union partners. I want to thank President Carson, who's been really coming up with some proactive ideas and solutions. I want to thank our teachers and our principals who at the building level I know have been doing things to try to get kids out the door. And I want to thank our students for, doing the things that you're supposed to. Again, as a parent, my kid sends me pictures of herself on the bus, and she's doing TikToks with her mask down. And I say, get your mask up. So everyone has responsibility in this. We cannot do it unless we all are doing it together. That's everyone. We all know that we want this to be better, and it will be better, because I believe that we can do this. I actually believe we can have a top-notch transportation program. I know we can do it. And we're gonna, it's at the attention, we have the right people at the table, and we're gonna make this happen. And it aligns with what we're doing in our strategic plan. Because we know if we can't get our kids to school, the vision of the portrait doesn't happen. So I just want to thank everyone. I want to thank everyone for this conversation, Superintendent for her report, everyone that's involved. And I believe that we're gonna make this even better. And it's just about having that right mindset. No blame. There's no blame for anyone. And just like Board Member Ragland said, as a reminder about having grace and compassion and empathy for everyone involved. I was a frustrated mama. She heard it. I even sent her a picture of the route. This makes no sense. What is this supposed to, right? I had to pull back because, we will get through this. And so I just want to thank everyone who's involved in making this happen. So thank you, Dr. Dixon, for that report. All right, we're going to go to the internal auditor. Hello.
Thank you, President Adair. Hello, everyone. I do not have a report. We had audit and accountability last Thursday, but there just wasn't enough time for me to get an executive summary and to get the PowerPoints out to you all to give you adequate time to look at the information and then get questions back to me. So I will be getting that report to you all out this week to hopefully give you enough time to review it, ask me any questions in order for the next meeting.
Okay, thank you so much. Mr. Treasurer.
Good evening, thank you. No report. Finance and Appropriations Committee meets a week from today on the 15th in this very room, 4 o'clock.
Great.
That's it.
Love it. We'll all be watching or attending.
You're all welcome. It will be riveting as always, right?
Always. Okay, we are now into our consent agenda. This evening, our consent agenda consists of items 9.1 to 24.4. Are there any items a member would like to remove from the consent agenda to be voted on separately? Okay, seeing none. Is there a motion to approve the consent?
I will move to approve the consent agenda.
There's been a motion and a second. Brown, then Cole. Brown, then Cole, seconded. Cole. Are there any items any board member would like to discuss? Board Member Pierce, Dr. Pierce.
I would like to discuss 23.2.
23.2, authority to enter into a purchase of service agreement with the Ohio State University. That one?
Oh, it's listed in the questions as 23.2. So no, it's not that one. It is authority to employ and pay workers and officials at student activities and functions.
22.2, authority to employ and pay workers and officials at student activity functions.
So 22.2. While this is not an allocation, I'm concerned about the shortage of referees that we have for our athletic events. In particular, arriving at 2 schools last week and being informed that the games were played on Thursday and not Friday. So my question is, how are we responding to that official shortage? Do we have any plans to move other games, to maybe get officials from other counties to come help us? I don't know. What's our plan of action?
So thank you. I did speak with Dr. Clarino about this, and unfortunately what we're facing with shortage of drivers, we're seeing the same thing with a shortage of our officials. And he stated we didn't anticipate, but many officials said because of COVID, they do not want to participate. So some games are being moved and canceled, and he is juggling as best as he can. so that students are able to still play. Sometimes that notification is not as timely as we want, but we talked today about strengthening that process and trying to, making sure that if it comes from the individual school's AD or the coach, that he will ensure that information will be available more timely for parents. But he did acknowledge that sometimes it's happening so quickly, the shift, that parents aren't notified as early as we would like.
I guess my follow-up question would also be, with our high school games, do we need a OSHA-regulated official versus with our middle school games, do we need an OSHA-certified official? Can middle schools go un-OSHA certified? Board Member Ragland, I saw you shaking your head.
I don't have the question.
It's my understanding that we have to have OSHA-regulated
For both?
officials for both. That was my understanding. I may be wrong with that, but it was my understanding that you have to have them for competitive athletics in a school setting.
That's tough. Okay.
Yeah.
That's
But
tough.
I know that you have to for high school. I don't know about middle school. I need to investigate, and I can
sure.
send a message out real quick and get that back.
But
Wait,
yes, I
Are you
think too.
finished? Hold on, you finished?
Yeah,
Okay.
for
Oh, I'm sorry,
22.2.
Dr. Pierce.
I'm
Please.
done for 22.2.
Oh, yes, ma'am. Okay, but to Board Member Brown's point about recruiting our own, this is another opportunity for our Columbus City League former athletes to understand what is happening to us in the midst of this pandemic. Go and get your official's license and help us out. We talk about the fact that we have needs. I know a lot of brothers that I see in the barbershop talking about some of these issues that Dr. Pierce has brought before us today. Well, how come y'all didn't have any officials? Well, there's a shortage, brother and sister. And so please go and get your officiating license and come back and be exclusive with Columbus City Schools. That is the thing, because we are competing with several leagues around the city, around the county, and around the state for these services for these officials. And if we grow our own and we keep our own, we may not have these problems because you're making the Lyndon McKinley versus Whetstone game the first choice, as opposed to some others who may not consider our schools to be the priority. And so we've got a lot of former athletes and folks that would be interested, and I would hope that we take that same approach as we're taking with our bus drivers and some of our other positions, and get those officials licensed and come back and help our Columbus City League students have the best experience possible.
Thank you. And thank you. I did just receive a text message from Dr. Michelle Klein, who is the Chief of Student Services, she supervises athletics now. And you do have to have the OSHA certification for middle and high school. So thank you, Dr. Klein, for that clarification. I knew high school, but I wasn't sure with middle school.
Okay.
Board Member Brown?
Briefly, I just wanted to supplement James' suggestion about recruiting students and pointing out these kinds of opportunities, officiating as well. I did just that for many, many years. Once upon a time, I was even in a much younger body and could compete, but that was long ago, far away. Yeah. But thereafter, I officiated for quite a few years while I was in college, law school, and beyond. But nobody should mistake it for a job. Right. It's going to add some extra money to somebody who makes their living elsewhere. It's nice to have as an add-on, but it's not something where you can, make enough to live on.
Other comments on 22.2? Okay, are there any other consent agenda items you'd like to discuss? Okay, seeing none, will you please call the roll?
Ms. Beckerly?
Yes.
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. Cole?
Yes.
Dr. Pierce?
With the exception of 23.2, which I'm abstaining, yes.
Mr. Ragland,
Yes.
Vice President Reyes is,
She left.
I'm sorry, I missed that. And President Adair.
Yes.
That motion carried.
Thank you. We have no public comment on non-agenda items. So the last thing we have to do this evening is adjourn. Is there a motion to
I
adjourn?
motion to adjourn.
Second.
Please call the roll.
Mr. Brown,
Yes.
Mr. Cole,
Yes.
Dr. Pierce,
Yes.
Mr. Ragland,
Yes.
President Adair.
Yes.
Ms. Beckerly.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Thank you. We stand adjourned.